I got the knowledge, wisdom, understanding. Now your word, learned your lesson. I got the knowledge, wisdom, understanding. Now your word, learned your lesson. I got the knowledge, wisdom, understanding. Now your word, learned your lesson.
Erasing the mark of the beast technology, but implanting the seed of spiritual immortality and producing.
With man, let's breathe. The plan must be the rottenness. I plant my seed like a botanist. I show you where the problem is beneath the surface.
Hello and welcome to another fantastic episode by the One Great Work Warriors. I'm here with Derek, Brandon, Jerry, and Rick, and Jim will be joining us very soon. We're here today to talk about one of the most important things that we see as being missing in the modern culture, in the modern time, and one of the most things that we really all agree that every human being needs to dig deep and find their perseverance. And that part of us that persists even when times are rough and that forces through even when there's a lot of resistance, because we have a world right now that is inundated and full of evil, terrible things going on. And we need to reverse, change, redirect humanity towards freedom, towards understanding and working within the understanding of natural law. Consequences, things are real right now, and they're going to get more real in the upcoming days. So I'm going to hand it off here to Brandon, who's going to start off by helping us out with some grammar and define the word perseverance. Thanks, Brandon.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Chris. And you always do some of the best hell intros. All right, so we're talking about the word hell perseverance, the etymology, um, meaning will or ability to preserve. Of course, you have the main word preserve and perseverance. Tenacity. It is from Old French perseverance, persistence, endurance, and then you can actually go back to Old Latin too. Persa, I think it's perseventia, something like that. Steadfast, quality, state of continuing, enduring. So that's pretty much what the etymology is. Something that endures, something that is steadfast, hard. Just pretty much like a core in a sense. So yeah, constantly, help persist, constantly help enduring, no matter what, rigorous environment, tasks or, bump in the road. So yeah, perseverance. I'm gonna pass it on over to Rick.
Thank you, Brandon. Welcome, everybody. And perseverance, that is something I think I deal with every day. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I can only go by me, like what I go through. And with the condition that I was born with, well, not born with, but which I did get very young, which has caused me severe pain through my life and continues and very limited motion. I just think about how every day for me, I have to persist and have to have perseverance. Sometimes just getting out of bed for me is a real struggle. I have to be so strong mentally because a lot of the times I don't want to move. It hurts so bad that, and doing certain things hurts so bad that I don't ever want to. Sometimes I just want to sit there. I don't want to do anything. And I have to really persevere and fight through that and start doing what I want to do because I have so many things that I do want to do in the day and I don't ever want to look at myself as limited. So I have to be really persistent and moving forward. That's just what I have to do. I mean, everything for me is kind of a challenge and I have to come at it from a different way than other people would. That maybe people that are healthy and really able-bodied, I can still do a lot of things, but I just have these challenges that I have to persevere through, whether it's even just having a shower. I was telling you guys before we went live that for a normal person, I really envy that. They can hop in a shower, out of a shower, 10 minutes, boom, bang, done. For me, that's an hour process to finally get in and out of a shower. It's a long process. And then I have things that I love to do. I love to garden and I like to be out in nature, and even just doing things like that is very difficult for me. So I just for me it's every day, and pretty much everything I do I have to persevere through the pain and through the limitations I have, and I have to be very persistent. And that is so important to me. I think that, but I was kind of thinking like maybe a lot of people have to persevere in life. I'd like to get some people's thoughts, you guys' thoughts on that. I was just wondering if most people in life have something that they have to persevere through, but that's kind of where I'm coming at. So I'll pass it on to Jerry.
Thank you, Crypt. So for me, perseverance is just doing a task repeatedly until you get it right. And then there's a new level that unlocks. So then you just keep going through, and there's going to be setbacks, there's going to be pushbacks, but the message is solid. It's stay strong, persevere, because many people have different challenges. Their own challenges are unique, but the secret sauce is perseverance. So I found myself ultimately thinking, man, this is connected to everything. Like, this is such an important topic. I am so excited to be here right now just to give my point of view on this topic of perseverance. So, yeah, persistence, it's the same thing. So I'll pass it to Derek.
Oui, mon ami. Persistence. Yeah. Hello out there in listener land. It is 3 o'clock in the morning where I'm at. I have persisted to make this shit happen and enlisted in making it on time and putting the mind, body, spirit and applying the Hermetica to my life and psyche and how I operate within this reality field. And if everyone does that, things work a little bit easier or more fluid, or you have more flow rather than the ebb in regards to the law of rhythm, right? But it all goes back to the state of mind. Like, what are people's states of minds in? Like, are people hard fasted in like persevering through whatever adversities they have to go through in the daily grind, or throughout the test of time and all these things? Like, I'm 40 years old. I'm looking at myself like I got so many fucking scars and bumps and bruises and all this shit, and like my body's been through the ringer, and my heart and mind and all that stuff. And what I have to show for my beautiful self, because I've gone through so many alchemical processes, I've persevered through, and I've burned through the fire, and the phoenix has risen through so many fucking times. And that's what the fuck that is. Perseverance. Break down the syllables, and then break down, what is, you know, symbolic to that, synonymous to it, and how we can apply ourselves through it. So, yeah, just keeping that consciousness fluid in a way that we can all just do it in our own genuine ways. And that's just something that I'm trying to encourage for everyone to do throughout their days. I'm sorry I speak in like hymns or whatever the fuck, but I don't know. You know what I mean, Chris? I'm a rhymaholic, but yeah, that's all I got to say for now. But I'm a
Ain't
shameless
nothing wrong
father,
with that.
ready to see on the East Coast.
Jim, you got your sound working, brother? Thanks for coming. Glad you made it.
Thanks, guys. Can you hear me?
Sounds good. Yeah, go ahead. You got
All right.
anything to say about persistence, perseverance?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'll just apologize for being late.
It's all good,
Um,
man.
Yeah. But yeah, no. Basically, I feel like I've been persevering for the last 5 years. Once I kind of like had like a moment where I just was so down and out and like at work and just feeling like my life is just like, meaningless or whatever. And I started going down this path of, local food and permaculture. and I had to sacrifice a lot, and I keep persevering through it. It's like this. I have this in me that I'm not gonna give up, and there's been a lot of tough times because of it, and also since adding on this natural law, which is like really you know trumps everything, and just getting started, spreading the word on that, and I just know it's like the rest of my life, as long as I'm alive, I know I'm gonna keep persevering with this message. Um, I'm fucking tired. I've been working hard the last month and a half or whatever, like really busy. And I thought if I went back to the job that I left, went back last year. I'm doing it this year too. And I'm doing it because I wanted to use it to, catapult me to earn money to have the resources to carry on like what I'm doing at the farm. But it's not working out. Like all the money's going, I'm financial hardship, and the money's finding other places to go. Um, been working on creating like a homeschool education uh course at the farm, and been having struggling with the website, and it's still not working out. Like, and I have hardly have time to get to fix things, and I'm like paying people to fix it. It's not working out, but it's not stopping me. And if it doesn't go on schedule, like how I had planned, I'm finding that, it's just, it's easy to give up. And I have in the past. I've let things like this, like setbacks, like slow me down. But the more and more the older I get, I just know that like I'm just getting stronger. I really am. And I feel like, you guys put up this subject, perseverance, and I don't think I really was persevering until I really felt I have a purpose. Um, but that's all I got for now. But yeah, I'll pass it to Rick. I don't know.
I'll now pass it to you, Chris, because I already went.
Cool, cool. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I wanted to say too, Rick, before for folks who are listening, before we started this meeting, Rick is like, I don't know, I feel a little weird. I don't want to sound like a complainer. And I was encouraging him to share
Right.
some of the things he goes through because I know that he goes through a lot of physical things that most of us don't normally have to face. And, like I've had times when I was sick or I was wounded or injured, and it's hard just getting out of bed. And I've thought many times, how must that be for people that are dealing with a lot of physical difficulties? So, I think you're right, Rick, that not everyone goes through the pain and the frustration you do exactly in the way you do every day, but we all do face these frustrations, these pains, this persistent problem of not having enough money or not having enough time or both. And so, you know, these things are, challenging us to bring out this perseverance. And I'm looking at this word perseverance, and it's got inside of it sever. And I think of like severance or severe. And it kind of reminds me of like cutting or really serious stuff, right? And I think it's one thing to survive, right? Like, let's say you wound up on a snowy mountain in the cold and you managed to survive, right? Great, you survived. But perseverance, like, even a step above just surviving. Perseverance is like, yeah, and not only that, but I stayed out there for a week, and I was warm when the helicopter came. I had a fire and I was cool. I didn't just survive. I persevered. I think it's a little more like stepping it up in a way. And for me, like I started thinking a lot about patience because ever since back in the days when I was part of the Christianity, well, I was really impressed by one particular part of the Bible. And that was the First Corinthians part that talks about what love is. And I really wanted to understand what love was in a more real way, because everybody talks about it in all these silly ways, and television and all this, they contort love into this ridiculous thing. But what I kind of boiled down, that First Corinthians passage starts off with love is patient. And I've always thought a lot about that. When you listen, when you really listen to someone, you're patient, right? But you're like, what is love? Like, if you have a child who's in danger and you're willing to do anything to save them, even if it means put your life on the line or get hurt or get sick or go through all kinds of pain and torture, and you're going to do it anyway, that's like a whole nother level of love. And love challenges you to persevere, not just to make it, not just to barely make it, but to succeed, but to come through it and be like, we persevered as a family, as a relationship. And I think relationships are the real mountain for all of us. The real cold mountain that each of us face is our relationships with other people or ourselves. And that's where this type of perseverance that I want to challenge us to start thinking about is another level of acceptance of this challenge, to rise to the next level, not just to make it, not just to get by, but to persevere. And that means, like, it's like patience, but applied to situations consciously and willfully. So I'll pass it back to Brandon.
Yeah, some great points by all of you. And when I hear the word persevere, I'm thinking of course, a principle that helps us embody other principles, because what good would integrity be if you wasn't willing to, go through these small battles, of your principles and maintaining those, because it is a battle and there's always something that's constantly trying to chip away, or there's always this form of distraction, there's always this form of illusion, out there that's going to always try to sway your consciousness, or bring you off your path. So you constantly have to have that persistence to stay focused. You constantly have to have that that principle, which a lot of people don't really talk about, to constantly walk your own path. This was something that we all had to go through in the past few years. This was something that was a struggle for me during the whole COVID lockdown bullshit. I was one of the ones who was told that they was not important and had to stay in their homes, even though I knew it was all bullshit. But what I chose to do was adhere to my principles. I decided that even though I was in a very unfortunate financial situation, I still would not take any, free handouts, from the state. And things got really bad, man. But I still decided to, be persistent in what I knew was right. And in the long game, it paid off. But it was a real struggle, and I know we can all talk about our own struggles from that time, but it was a real struggle for me, because I was on the verge of literally being put out. It was hard to feed myself, pay bills when you was told that you couldn't work, and it was all out of my hands, because people believed in so much of the bullshit. But when I kept adhering to my principles, now the situation is way different. I'm still here. Things are somewhat better personally, in the greater scheme of things, they're still worse. But in trying to teach natural law too, like, you need perseverance, because I mean, we're trying to, teach people stuff that they don't really want to hear, and it's a constant struggle, and it's just about not giving up. And also too, doing the shadow work is a constant struggle. It's a constant persistence, because there's always something new. There's always something coming up to the surface, like real life. You may be going through something, like, there's always something, and then you have to deal with like real life stuff. So yeah, I'll pass it on to Derek.
Volume.
Derek or Jerry? No, just kidding. Um, so yeah, we're definitely tested in so many ways. And maybe I'll bring this up later, but it just comes to mind right now, and I'll just run with it. But like Brandon was alluding to, it's a daily operation. The alchemical process, the trying to up leveling our knowledge of self, knowledge of the world around us, and et cetera, et cetera. And for those like us who are at, whatever level we feel comfortable of sharing these tidbits of information and our life experiences and putting them into whatever kind of conscious content, on whatever platforms, YouTube, blah, 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 all that stuff. And to like keep whatever persistence and perseverance through, yeah, we got the trolls. There's never, not just trolls, but, maybe negative comments or just like lack of interaction, lack of viewership, lack of subscribers, lack of whatever the fuck that can discourage us just like that. And guess what? We all know that the worst critic is that inner self, right? How many people are persevering through their inner conflicts and, just going through that in and of itself? And that's why I always take it back to the first cosmic law principle, which is what I mentioned before, the cosmic law of mentalism, breaking out of that mental schism and all those isms and all that stuff. Listen to John Rowland. He's got a cool song about that. If you're in the know, right? You know about that, Brandon? Yeah, right. It's the miss. But anyways, funnel, freedom under natural law. And I like your t-shirt, Chris, with the seed in a time of need. It's coming up indeed in September, I believe. But anyways, I can get off topic so easily, but persevering through the subjects that really matter. What the fuck, yo? What are we trying to really persevere through? Betterment of self, more happiness amongst ourselves and others and the people we love, and spreading that love and rippling that out and trying to have fucking freedom and shit like that amongst a world of fucking darkness and ignorance. Yeah, shit ain't fucking easy, but we can make it look that way sometimes. How are we persevering to make it seem that way? Edutainment, music, comedy, just your way of life, your interaction with nature, your interaction with your fellow brethren and sisterin, and all these things. Your mother, your father, your inner father, and all that shit. Daily operational. It's a inner occupational. I'll pass it on because
You're just
what's
too
Brandon?
sensational.
Chris.
He makes good points though, Chris, about like I just think about doing the great work and when you're getting this message out of all the things that we cover, and I think of, he's Derek's so right. I mean, at times it gets really tough because to do this. And it does, I just think of all the distractions that get thrown at people in life, even. Um, and it's so hard to even sometimes do the work on yourself, which is so important. You do have to be persistent because life is always throwing some kind of distraction at you, or it does make things tough. And there's always people trying to kind of steer you off course. And it does take a lot of persistence and perseverance, I think. And that's why I do the radio show that I do. That's why I do the interviews I do. And yeah, you don't get a lot of, it's not at times I don't think it's a very popular subject. It's people are not like flooding to see our interviews and our videos and stuff. Not like you see some of these big people on YouTube that are covering things that really mean nothing and have no real, in my opinion, true value. A lot of these people have these gigantic channels, the things they cover. So when you start doing this work, you do have to have persistence and perseverance for sure, because at least for me, I build one subscriber at a time and I earn every one of them. I think it's not an easy path and it does take a lot of persistence. So I just want to chime in on that.
Yeah, and not enough people have the persistence and perseverance to put truth out into the world, you know,
Yep.
because if we look at all of the mind control, we look at all of the garbage, media, we look at how
Mm-hmm.
entertainment, it's just a persistent, um, how mind control, just straight, ignorance. And of course, the dark sorcerers, the social engineers, they have, help the perseverance to continue their goal, to continue their
Oh yeah.
agenda. But sadly, um, we still have that potential inside of us. And then this gets me back on something that Rick said earlier. Um, um, are people exercising, help perseverance daily? And my answer to that was no. They are mimicking, like perseverance because they are programmed on like a robotic state. But to me, when I hear the word help perseverance, we're talking about will, so we're talking about choice. So you're talking about something that involves a conscious choice of you wanting to preserve, because if you are preserving something, then you're trying to make sure that it is lasting longer, so you have to go through or preserve the conditions too, to make sure that it is going to, I guess, hold weight over time. So you have to have that. So people really don't really have that because they are conditioned, from this robotic. They don't really consciously exercise free will choice. So to me, is going to be the true difference when we're talking about how perseverance is. You're really consciously having a choice in something like, hey, I want to continue this. I want to get better at this, or like I want to raise the bar. As Chris was saying, like I have a goal and I want to, help up this. It's not just a program, how repetitiveness that you're doing something that you aren't even aware of. So I'll pass it on to Jim.
Yeah. Thanks, Brandon. Yeah, I can call myself out on that. Like I said earlier that I have been persevering over the years, but I'm not consistent enough. Like I haven't been there's been times when I've let it go. And Derek had mentioned too about, the inner work. And I caught myself yesterday. I screwed up at work and I forgot to grab something from my boss and I left it at the last job and it was an hour away. And I decided I had to go back and get it and bring it to him. So it took me 2 hours, but it was because I had to keep my word. And on the way there, I was like, I don't always keep my word to myself though. Like that was the message that came through for me, like how important it would be for me to keep the word for myself. And so that stuck. But yeah, I do need to be more persistent. And I like I said, I have been over the years, but just not enough. There's times I let it go. And Chris had mentioned patience, which I've thought about a lot. Um, I've used the tortoise and the hare as an example with when I describe permaculture and agriculture. Permaculture would be the tortoise, and that's aligned with nature. Um, the hare represents humanity, right? Because I mean, really, a hare in real life is aligned with nature, a rabbit. But the parable of the hare is humanity and just like being unaligned with nature and trying to do everything fast. And yeah, this is gonna we have to align with nature and it's gonna take time and it's gotta be the number the number one requirement for trying to spread the message, speak about the truth, which is like the most unpopular topic, right? You have to have perseverance, right? It's so funny, but that's the requirement, like no, because you just gotta keep hammering away at it because it's not a popular thing for people. Um, but yeah, what's up, Jerry?
What's up, guys? So great points. It's kind of hard to recap everything that's been said, but everyone has made such exceptional points that I have to raise the bar. I mean, we're essentially trying to get the message out to people about natural law. And so we have to break that paradigm that whatever's holding us back, like we have to break through that and like just keep persevering. Like keep saying it, it's gonna be good. Like the more your brain will hear that word and then you'll feel like strong out of it, right? It's like you say something like depressing and then your body like you get a reaction like you feel depressed. But if you're like, I'm gonna persevere through this, then like you're in a whole different state. So yeah, I guess I'll just share a quick story here about myself. So I had it easy growing up, I guess. Um, and it wasn't until I was put in a challenging situation, high school in New York, which I lived in Mexico, and so it's like a different environment, and that was challenging for me. And I started to doubt myself. So yeah, not to get off tangent, but I think that's my goal is to put out the message of natural law and truth for people who have that self-doubt, because it may be important for them or for me hearing the message of truth and then making me reconsider whether or not I'm feeding myself the truth. And then, so yeah, that's the goal, to wake up people, but I have to persevere through that. And yeah, like even just showing up today, like I wanted to do a bunch of different things than show up, but you know what? I persevered and I'm glad I did. So I'll pass it to Chris.
Thanks, Jerry. That's fantastic. I kind of just came up with this. I was thinking about it before, like patience applied, perseverance is patient applied, but it's also applied consistently over time. And from my point of view, that's the way I've seen some of the most effective change in my life happen. And now that I'm thinking, this term perseverance is a really good way to describe it. Like you could try something and put all your might into it on one day and fail and quit. And no one's going to say he persevered, no matter how hard you tried. But if you just keep trying something every day and just, ticking away at it little by little, over time, that's true persistence and perseverance. That's when the obstacles are mounting against you and you continue to chip away at it. I put in my slide I created for this some things that inspire me. Wim Hof has always inspired me. Wim Hof's story was that I'm pretty sure he had a loved one that died. I think it was his ex-wife, and may have been a suicide or something like that. It was something terrible, and he had all this trauma and depression to deal with, and he started getting in the cold river. And then he started challenging himself, and rather than giving up, he had 4 kids to take care of, I think, something like that. He had a bunch of kids. He pushed himself to the next level. Says, not only am I not going to let this ruin me, I'm going to choose to make me stronger. And I remember hearing about his story a long time ago, and I also remember reading about, like the Shaolin monks, these people that will every day start out just punching rice, bat, 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 until their hands get strong enough and you can straight up hit a tree, bam, 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 and then, I got this picture of this guy right here where, they're holding this guy up with spikes, and he's balancing his whole body on these spikes. You don't get to doing that by not persevering through a lot of days of being uncomfortable. And so consistently applying patience in a world of huge obstacles that seem unsurmountable, that seem bigger than us, that's what we're up against. Especially if you come to the point in your life where you realize just how sinister the world is and just how far off track we are in terms of morality, that we're so far off track that people don't even know what morality is, that natural law seems like some kind of foreign concept. That's how far off we are, and trying to teach this concept just seems almost impossible when you see how far the world is away from it. And the only way we're gonna chip away at this problem is by chipping away at it. It's a brick wall. You're not going to just come at it with a big giant sledgehammer and punch a hole through it. We're going to have to chip away at the mortar and keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. It's going to take a hell of a lot more perseverance than people are showing right now, because our modern culture teaches you give up easy. Just find an easier solution. Pay someone, do it an easier way. If something's not working, well, you're probably not doing it right, you know. But old school, like the generation before me or the generation before that, like my dad came from an era where farmers busted their ass every day. And I'm not saying we should bust our ass like a slave every day, but I'm saying they had a toughness, grit about them, where they weren't the type of people to give up easily, and they're strong, you know, and they knew how to just keep pushing and pushing. And that's what has always inspired me, is meeting men, and not only men but women too, people that don't give up, people that persist. And sometimes you realize that, like, okay, I'm going about this wrong, I'm wasting time and energy, I need to go at it in a smoother way. It doesn't mean don't be smooth, but it means consistently coming at this thing with your power, and not ever just saying, well, I guess it's somebody else's problem, I'll never figure it out, it's too hard, I give up. You know, just, I'm never going to be that. That's just not even part of me. That doesn't fit into perseverance. And I would say, honestly, true love is more tough than people make it out in their mind to be. It's pushing through the tough times. It's forcing through all the obstacles, no matter how hard they are. It's feeling like shit, getting your face grinded in the dirt and getting back up, wiping yourself off and saying, I'm gonna try again. Fuck it. Yeah.
Great point.
We got a time for probably another little finale from everyone. Go ahead, Derek.
But yeah, it's really about activating that will force from within, which, it's about that state of mind and just, trickling it down through that, spiritual, physical, everything, metaphysical, whatever. And yeah, Chris, great points, man. And it really provoked me, as well as some other, all y'all before that. Great points as well. Appreciate that. For me, like, all right, working on a farm, all that stuff. Yes, I've kind of been there. I've dabbled in that here and there in times of my life, and I have a reverence for that. I have appreciation for that. I have energy for that. For me, that's just like, that's life work. I mean, or light work, life work, whatever. I could be doing that 24/7. So you own a house. Are we building it? Are we gonna be, building things around it? Are we gonna be gardening around it? How are we gonna be, cultivating the environment around that? As far as all these things, aside from our inner workings in that, and our partnerships or relationships, friendships, family members, whatever, persevering through all that. And then, all right, so we have 9 to 5 jobs, some people, and this and that. Going through that, and I've had this with my ex-wife, who had, job 9 to 5, this and that. And she was more the breadwinner than I was, even though I was making decent money. I would have been making more if I was in America, but c'est la vie in France. But, I kept telling her, like, hey, like, why do we need to be, shoveling off so much of our time, and it's more about the energy, like, anyone in a 9 to 5 job, in a matrix corporate system, whatever the fuck, working for the man or the woman, whatever the fuck. All right, so are you able to see that for what it is? Just put your center screen within yourself, and, devote limited energy towards that, just to, make ends meet with, the salary that you have to make with that fucking job. whatever the fuck people have to do to make a fucking living. People all have to fucking eat for whatever, like all these things, and the perseverance filters through many fucking filters, and we all have to keep these things in mind and have compassion for people going through whatever, struggles and ways of life that they find themselves in through whatever country, region, state, blah blah blah, right? So yeah, there's a shitload of things to consider, and I'm not gonna dabble onto that. I'm gonna pass it on to someone else who's got better things to talk about because it's getting boring. No, I'm just kidding, but
Hey, that
persevere through that shit, man. Shit.
that grind, I think, one thing I'm thinking about what you're saying, Derek, that grind, it has a monotonous toll that it takes on you, and many of us get pulled into that grind. You almost can't help
Thank
it.
you.
And
Yeah.
but from what I'm saying, like, persistence and perseverance is a level beyond just putting up with the grind and letting yourself be stuck in it. That wouldn't be really what I'm talking about, of persistence. Persistence or perseverance is like the next level of pushing through. That's just getting by. That's just doing what we have to do. We all have to do that, because if you don't, you know what's going to happen, right? Like a bunch of terrible things come one after another when you got no money, you got no food, you got nowhere to live, etc., right? Like, so that's just getting by, right? Well, what's the mountain? What's the achievement? What's the next level shit? Is when you do that 9 to 5, then you come home, then you spend all evening making a podcast like Brandon does. You spend 6, 7, 8 hours learning a new concept or a new technology on your computer so you can help spread truth to the world after spending, however many hours at work, just kind of getting beat up just to pay your damn rent. And then you're spending your free time trying to help other people and trying to help teach. That to me is perseverance and persistence, not just making it, not just getting by, not just surviving. What do you say, Rick?
I think great points, man. All of yous are making such great points, and it's true, Chris. Like I think about that too. Like it's about showing up for me. I mean, that's the best way I can put it. And you make so many points earlier that were really resonated with me because I come at things at a different way than other people do, and I have to be very persistent and always show up. I don't. A lot of times, nothing happens right away for me. Like I'm working out now, and I'm starting to do a lot of stretching and stuff, and I have to persevere through that. It's a slow process with me. I'm working at a disadvantage already, but I have to keep going forward. And for me, it's just these little steps forward that I take every day. They're small, but I keep moving forward. That's kind of like why I have the slide I made shows a rock climber climbing up a rock, and that's what I keep thinking about is you have to keep moving forward, and I have to do that even with my inner work. There's always some type of a distraction or being thrown at me, but I have to do the work on myself and be very persistent with that. I do that every day, and then I work on my physical self. I have to show up and do that every day. And it's these small steps. I don't want to just get by and just manage. I can do that. I could just sit around and just do that, but I want to excel and get better. And then that's why I do what I do, talking about freedom and truth, because I truly believe in it so much and care about it so much. I want to get it out there. And so if I have to do it every day, I will. I will do every interviews and message and radio shows every day to get this message out there. And you were talking about tech, and a year and a half ago, as you guys know, I didn't have any tech. I had a phone like most people, and I had to persevere and learn all of this stuff, which I'm still learning. Every day I'm learning about this stuff and learning new little things, but I have to show up every day and try to learn new things and persevere. And I will end with just it's a quote in a Rocky movie that I heard, and it's always stuck with me. And I always think there's these little gems in movies, and it just kind of ties into what I say to myself a lot of the time. And I think sums up really good. And I can't say it, quote it. I can't quote it, so I'll paraphrase it, but it goes along the lines of that nothing hits harder than life, and life will beat you to your knees and leave you there permanently if you let it. You have to be willing to get up, take the hits, and keep moving forward. And I think of that all the time. I say that every day to myself. you have to be willing to take the hits and keep moving forward. So I've always, that's just something I've heard in that one Rocky movie, and it's something I say to myself. So I wanted to end with that and pass it on to Brandon.
I've never seen a Rocky movie, but I've heard good things about them.
There's gems in there.
Yeah, yeah, there's gems in a lot of movies. But yeah, Chris made such a wonderful point that people talk about how the grind, the grind or the hustle, whatever that is toward them. But what are you doing, when the conditions are not in your favor? Like what are you doing when you're mentally tired? What are you doing, like when you're physically tired? Like what are you doing when the odds are held against you? I think that's when you really start to see that will. That's when you really start to see that true, perseverance. Because then it's like I said earlier, then that's when you can make the choice to say, hey, I'm going to give up. Hey, I'm just going to go sit in front of the television. Hey, I'm just going to go have that beer. Hey, I'm just going to go have relax and watch the game. Or you can say, hey, I'm going to go read a book, or maybe I'm going to go create, or maybe I'm going to go learn, this new technology, or maybe I'm going to go spend time, help with my kids, spend time, help with my spouse, or, maybe I am going to go create a podcast. Like, what are you doing when you're tired? Like, what are you doing when you are mentally drained? I think that right there is what you're really going to see, not only as far as character, but what you truly care about. Because there are times, like when you don't want to do this kind of stuff, but you look at, what needs to be done and what you really want to do, and you make that sacrifice of giving up what you really want to do, to try to preserve truth. Because that's what we are really all trying to do, is we are trying to preserve truth. We are trying to preserve freedom. We are trying to preserve, help preserve our knowledge, so the ones who come after us and long after us can still, have those same tools, so they can, help do the same. So I'll pass it on to anyone who wants to take it over.
Hey Jim, you got that quote handy that was on your slide? I thought that'd be something nice to read. I got it. I think I
can't.
can.
Okay, cool. You can't
I'll
read it
bring it up.
verbatim.
I'll bring it up just a second here. But you got
Cool.
anything else you want to say, Jim? Kind of close up.
Um, yeah, I don't want to go off on another tangent, but just real quick say something that I was struggling with during the week. Uh, like I do know a lot of people who persevere and work hard, and um, but it just seems like this is a judgment, but they're doing it about money and material things, and you know, I see a lot of that. I see people who like persevere, but maybe it's just wasted talent. But that's just where they're at or whatever. But I just like that we as far as we're speaking of perseverance, it's about serving others and humanity. So like I just think that's cool. Did you find that quote?
Yeah,
Henry David
Thoreau.
Thoreau.
Thoreau. Nature is slow but sure. She works no faster than need be. She is the tortoise that wins the race by her perseverance. Yeah, like
Awesome.
nature really teaches us this. Nature can kick the shit out of anything given some time. You pour all the concrete you want. If you leave long enough, nature's going to grow through that and split it. You know, so nature
Yeah.
is our teacher and our living Bible that shows us. And that's, you know, I think we need to take wisdom and understanding wherever we can find it, and that's why I'm saying, like, I chose that quote from the Bible because that has always stuck with me. It's already provided over and over in my life something to go back to that's solid. Love does not delight in evil but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. Love never fails. So that's the kind of person we want to be in this world, that never freaking gives up, that never stops trying to do the right thing, even when everybody around us is doing the wrong thing and maybe even threatening us. If we're going to get in trouble or we're going to get, whatever, if we don't do the right thing, we're going to persevere. We're going to consistently make every opportunity to do that right choice and to do something that is uncomfortable or not so easy, or we have to make some kind of sacrifice, right? You're never going to get anything awesome or amazing or inspiring done without some level of uncomfortable, doing something that's difficult, and that's when the perseverance and the persistence comes in. Jerry, you got any last words there, brother?
Yes, I'm just thinking of trying to wrap everything up into a nice packet. So, like, what I got from Jim was like, we all encounter challenges and we all fail. So, what I got from Derek is the mindset. It's like, hey, you need to like prepare your mind for these obstacles that will come. Like, even if you're sitting on your couch, you're gonna have an obstacle one day. It's just a matter of time. Best be prepared and let that challenge knock you out. And then what I got from Crypt was the Rocky, like the quote, you're gonna get hit. And I just want to kind of recap my little story from earlier because when I was faced with that challenge, I had like a lot of self-doubt. But with what you said, Chris, like consistently persevering, I fed myself the message of perseverance essentially, like let's not give up. And now when I'm encountered with a challenge, I like snap out of it so quick. I don't like I barely try. That's because I'm feeding myself good thoughts. And with Brandon, everything you said was fire, brother. So I just wrap it up there.
I wanted to bounce one more time off something you said, Jerry, too, about that kind of that different point of view, that different mindset you get in when you're not even going to be stopped. And you can look at this, look up any sport, look up any martial art, and what makes the difference between people at the very top and the people that don't quite get there. They just have this extra, no, I'm doing it. No, I'm going there, and that's kind of what it takes to make it in what we're facing, as truth speakers. You got YouTube wants to censor you. You got, even the other channels that we thought weren't going to censor us are like starting to block us or do weird crap, and like we spend hours and hours trying to create this content, and then you post it up and it's got like 3 views and you're like, what? It's like we got, you try to talk to someone, you spend some time saying, hey, look, I read this book and this other book, and there's this Tavistock Institute, there's this Council on Foreign Relations, and they're like, you conspiracy theorists, like they don't want to think about all that. It's probably not connected, but you're like, no, seriously, I did this research and there's these names exist, these papers exist, these are all real stuff, they're all real people, I'm not making it up. And they're like, that's too hard to discern whether that's true or not. I'm just gonna, so this is our challenge. Endless lines of justification, endless egotistical, materialistic kind of points of view as far as the eye and the mind can see in every direction. And we're in here trying to be like, what about what's best for everyone? What about what principles actually teach? What about what's actually right in the universe and what nature's actually showing us so clearly if you look and listen, So the message is a big kick in the ass to all of us, including myself. However hard you're trying, it's not fucking hard enough, Why are you doing what you're doing? Why? What's the reason? If there's not a good damn reason, you need to know why. And that will give you that will and persistence, because you're working from a place of why I'm doing shit, because this is a priority problem, because there's children in slavery right now, because almost our whole planet is in slavery right now. That's a damn good reason to care about stuff and to kick it up a notch. Try harder, That's where I want to end it.
Chris bringing that
That's a
fire.
good way to end it.
Is that the end? All right.
Yeah, it is totally. And I love the way you applied your will force towards, evoking those things, and definitely resonate with you, as I'm sure all you brothers do as well. And yeah, that's a great way to conclude it. I wanted to throw a cherry on top, but yeah, I just want to, encourage listeners out there, like, hey, we have a choice out there always. And is it based on like that true love for self and the true love for just like life on a whole, and things of that nature, or the lore of that? And yeah, Brandon, you want to?
Yeah, nah, well, since you're wrapping it up and we're talking about perseverance, let's show some love for funnel and seed. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
because that takes perseverance too, right there.
Thanks for the reminder, Brandon. So, folks, it's almost exactly 1 month. We're looking at June 24th and 25th is the Freedom Under Natural Law Conference. If you haven't yet, go to freedomundernaturallaw.com and enter your email address in the prompt. Check out the great list of speakers, amazing lineup coming this year. People like Hannah Maria, Richard Grove, Will Keller. A lot of people are going to be involved with this concert. There's going to be this conference. There's going to be music and visuals. So some roundtables. We're really looking forward to it. It's coming right up. So we're going to spread the word.
Sweet,
All right.
sweet.
Thanks, Brandon, for the reminder there.
Yeah.
Awaken Your Mind. Check out Awaken Your Mind, Dissolving the Divide. Check out Brandon Spencer's Odyssey and Crypt Rick. I've been thinking, and Jim with Truth in Your Heart. And I know, Jerry, you got a YouTube channel you're cooking on. And
Science.
yeah.
Non-compliance.
Non-compliance. All right, gentlemen, thanks so much for joining me today. And listeners, thank you so much for your time and attention. And you know what to do. We'll see you next time. All right, later on.